gonna get high, so I gotta talk quick. All right, so I am rebuilding the bench top for my Harbor Freight POS workshop bench. I'll probably do the legs eventually. I really like the drawers in the front. So I'm gonna keep most of the same. I'm just building the top. I didn't have to fit so far, and if you haven't seen it yet, you know what? I'm just gonna put it right here.
Run.
All right, so now that you've seen how not to use a joiner, it actually has a little indent in the top there where you can use it to move the guard. I wasn't paying attention because sometimes you get too confident with your tools and you're not paying attention, and then you lose some of your finger. Not too bad, there's still blood everywhere in here. My finger is still quite painful. This happened yesterday. So far what I've done is planed all these down so I got nice clean faces to glue together for the worktop bench. And then this is half, the other half sitting right here, which I'll show you what I'm going to do here. It's, I've already determined what side I'm going to use. I only need to be 5 feet long. These are 8 feet long, so I've already marked where I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut it with the chop saw here. And I also marked, you probably can't see this, but I marked what side it's going to be at the top. I try to pick the most, the cleanest tops. So the knots that I do have to cut out and fill with epoxy will be a little less. They were way worse than the bottom side. So what now I'm going to do is chop these down the sides, run through the planer, so I got nice clean faces to glue together. And in about an hour, this should be glued up enough where I can take it apart and use these clamps. Because I think I got 2 longer clamps left that I can use. I need to go to Harbor Freight and get more of these clamps. These things are awesome. All right, I know it'll be a little loud with the AC and my dust collection fan thing. Can you see that? It's a high-speed dust collector right there. So it'll be a little loud. I hope you can hear me fine. I got all the pieces cut the length. What I'm going to do is run them all through the planer. And I haven't jointed the side because I have post-traumatic stress disorder from my joiner. So I'm not really worried about the top or bottom edges because once it's all glued together, the whole thing's going to go through there, the 2 halves. And then the 2 halves will get glued together, and I'll make sure I line them up real good. And if I have to, I'll do some hand planing on the top to flatten them out. So what I'm going to do now is run these through, and then flip them, and get the other side flat, make them the same width as the other boards. And then now that I have nice 2 clean flats, I'm going to glue them all together. is measured out, cut out a notch for my vise. It's kind of small. These are going to be on the facing side, the back face. And then I'll have my one vise that's already on the old Harbor Freight one that I have to drill some holes and do some routing to put that other one back on there. So I'll have one on the side and then two on the back face. I'm gonna have one here and one down at the other end. It's pretty easy. Took some measurements, cut, smacked off the piece of wood, use the chisel to flatten it out, and that's it. So there'll be 2 screws that go through the bottom and then 2 screws that go through the face, which I think I have to take it apart. Yeah, I have to take it apart to get them in there. I think it'll be good. And then I get to make the piece of the wood that go in there too. I now need to cut out the other side for this. So I just took the clamps off. A couple issues right here at the very end. I guess I didn't have enough glue because I took the clamps off and sprung open. But luckily the ends still measure the same length or width. And then, all right, so here, very flat. It's nice and flat. The other end over here, there is a little bit, it's a little bit concave. So it swoops down here in the middle. That's where I glued those 2 pieces together. And this is what I was trying to avoid by using those biscuits. And then the other end over here, you zoom out. This thing is really bad. The center right here is a lot higher than the ends. You can see that when I did the individual ones, those came out really flat. So plan is to plane it all down. It's going to take some time, but I'll get it flat. So before I flip this over, I'm going to show you what I did on the bottom here. I got the skirts on, and I'm hoping that the sideboard that's over here keeps this from warping anymore than it already has. I had to hog out a whole bunch of material here so that the vise can actually close all the way. I didn't think about this when I first drew everything up. Use a Forstner bit and a chisel, and it's ugly, but it works and everything clears. Had to do it to the other end over there for the other vise, and this one here for the side vise off the old bench. Got this end. Let me get you a closer look down here. This is the thing that the screw works off of. It's got 2 10mm nuts that have to hold it, and a whole lot of material I had to hog out here. Started off with the plunge router and did most of it, and probably about half of it. And then the other half Forstner bit for the 2 ends, and then a chisel to clean it up, and I don't know. Let me think you can see all the way down there. Oh. Deep hole. Something else I had to do was drill holes 9-inch deep, a 1/2 inch wide, for it to go all the way in. For a minute I thought, how am I gonna get a hole that deep in there? And then I remembered a good friend of mine, Tom McGrath, made me wise to a estate sale in town, and while I was there in the trash was a bunch of these nice old auger bits. And luckily for me, they don't use that, what is that thing called? I don't know the word for it. Old-timey drill, there's another word for it. But I didn't have to use one of these. I was able to hook this up to the drill, and I marked in marker where the 9 inches was. And it worked. and I got them straight. I used a level across this way and kept looking to make sure I was going straight. And obviously I got the lines from the 2x4s here to help me keep it aligned that way. That's gonna work out well. I'm probably gonna rebuild the whole thing. I don't know what this is. It's a harder wood. I'm not sure what it is, but for some reason it is crooked. You can see this end touches before this end, and that's that's a 1/4 inch gap right there. If you squeeze it hard enough, it flattens out, but I'm probably gonna rebuild this whole end of it too. So the next thing I'm gonna do is get this flipped up over. I gotta take the top off the old one and find out how I'm gonna keep it from collapsing on itself, because it has the drawers underneath, which I'm gonna keep. That's why I went with the vices on the back side. And then I need to flatten the top out. This is gonna be fun to try to flip over. It's heavy, and I'm injured. Good.
All the shirts, 8 shirts. Pretty good.
All right, I'm recording.
Love you.
Bye-bye. All right. I got it flat. Surprisingly, there's a lot of material I had to hog out on this end, right here in the center. And there's still a little bit of a high spot right around this knot, but I'm not worried about it. And then over on the opposite end, pretty much this half over here, the high ends were on the outside. I hogged a lot of material. The ground is just freaking covered. After that, I marked out the spots for the bench dogs. Got those drilled out and then sanded with, I think it's a 60 grit. It's on the belt sander, and then the palm sander I went again with the 60, 80, 120, 220. So it's pretty smooth. I don't expect it to be like glass. There's still a lot of spots from tear out from the plane, because I was going so aggressive with it because I had to hog so much material out. There's still some little spots or little divots here, but eventually it'll go away. Now I'm just going to cover it down with some boiled linseed oil, keep it protected from stains, I guess. Oh, something important, these holes do not go all the way through, so they'll collect dust and stuff. But more importantly, it'll keep dust from getting in my drawers underneath it. The table that's down there, the old tabletop, which I'm going to repurpose, has the holes that go all the way through, so any dust that was up on the top went into the drawers, got everything that was in there. I got one vise done. Need to do the other side. And I'll show you how I did that because it was a little confusing for me. To put the board on the inside from the back, the thing needs to be mounted, so I'm gonna put some holes through there. And I did some stuff with some double-sided tape too that you'll see. And it's done for now. So I have a plan for the to use the old top here. You can see why I replaced it. It's thin, cheap. When I getting stuff on it, it would give quite a bit. I'm surprised I haven't broke it. But that's what you get for buying a workbench from Harbor Freight. I had it for about a year. I got the vices in the back. I know on the last clip it cut out, the memory card got full. But having these in the back, I'm gonna have a long board clamped up, so I have to do something on the side. I have that option. The old vise, I kept that. I am gonna rebuild the end here. And I was able to retain all my drawers. What's nice is the bench dog holes don't go all the way through, so I can clean these drawers out and they should stay free of dust from here on out. The top part I'm going to use for the bottom here, and I'm going to make a little shelf down there to put tools that I commonly use, like the drill driver, maybe a saw. I don't know. We'll see. Appreciate you watching. Make sure you click like if you liked it. Hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you next time.